Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today is Warlock Wednesday, and we are going to be talking about the Eldritch Invocation Eldritch site.
With tentacles. Yeah.
All right, now, we've already talked about Devil's Sight. This is something completely different.
Entirely different in every possible way.
Yes. Not every possible
way. That's true. This is still a Warlock Eldritch Invocation after all.
Yes.
All it is says, it's very simple. You can cast Detect Magic at will without expending a spell slot or material components. That's it.
Yeah. Well, Detect Magic doesn't have material components.
It doesn't.
So that's a little
odd.
Bit, redundant.
Why does it say that?
I don't know.
Now I'm annoyed. That's stupid.
It's probably the sort of thing where they have other spells or other invocations or feats that do the same thing to spells that have this, and they just like left it in there, copied and pasted it or something.
That feels like lazy editing, but here we are.
Yeah.
It's agnostic of the formatting. Eldritch Sight is one of my favorite first to third level Warlock invocations that I will remove the moment I'm playing a tome lock that gets Eyes or the Book of Ancient Secrets, because that Detect Magic just goes in that book. Detect Magic, I think, is a really excellent spell for interfacing with the world. I think Detect Magic, if you want to be like, I am magic, I get magic, magic is a thing that I interface with, Detect Magic is a really easy, cheap way to do it. Getting it for free does have a real upside over casting as a ritual spell, being able to just say, I see right now, is there magic? Versus we take 10 minutes, I can then see magic for 10 minutes. Like, there's a pretty meaningful difference between those two things in a lot of environments. That makes this pretty interesting to take in the early tiers. I don't think it makes it like the best ever, but it's definitely an invocation I think you can get a lot of mileage out of if you want to feel like the magic detective, if you want to feel like the delving into ancient secrets and picking apart the chords of unraveling madness as you learn more about your eldritch evil ancient tentacle monster patron, or maybe you're like, I want to see fairies and be the Feywild trickster prankster, so you see onto that realm in a way that feels thematically appropriate, but letting you use Detect Magic at will, which is a baller for spell.
Now, that said, you're dropping this as soon as you get the you get it as a ritual spell.
The reality of Detect Magic is it is at its best at the earliest tier of play whenever you're looking for magic traps, whenever you're not aware something is abundantly magical. That tends to be really low tier stuff, and that tends to be doable as a ritual spell. You don't necessarily need this in most environments. Like, this will end up feeling a lot more fluffy in the mid to upper tiers, and it becomes a lot better as a ritual spell there, because you just say, okay, going to the dungeon before we head in, I'll Detect Magic, we'll have it for as long as I need it for the delving in through the entry dungeon areas. And it's not really worth a whole invocation slot. I would much rather have like things that contribute to my overall build over this, and invocations are pretty costly. The reason I tend to switch it out is Book of Ancient Secrets can give me access to this if I want it, A. And B, the 5th level invocations tend to be very good. So those are like your extra attacking invocations. Those are the invocations that give you access to more potent stuff that you really want to be scaling up into. If you're building around darkness, getting things like Devil's Sight, whenever you get access to darkness, that then starts to gel and make sense here. Whenever your build really starts to come together, there isn't really part of any given Warlock build that needs Eldritch Sight. It's just another little toolboxy thing that you can play around with if you want to. And that's why I tend to find that it swaps out pretty easily for other stuff.
I don't know that this is a, specific to a Warlock build kind of thing. It's just that Warlocks are the only people that get the option to have this. I think Eldritch Sight on any character would be amazing. Just at will detect magic. Like, guess what? I'm detecting magic all the time. Yeah, you can do it as a ritual spell. Oh, does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well, but still, in the times when, yeah, if you're using a concentration spell, all right, well, I can turn off my magic detection during that time. But I'm talking about like you're attending a party. You just have your scanners on all the time. Why is that guy glowing?
I mean, if you're going to a party, is it that unreasonable to think this is ritual castable, right? In a lot of the other world
Yeah,
exploration,
yeah.
it's
If
like
you're in a party and you start doing a ritual, that's
you
weird.
go to the toilet for 10 minutes and you come back and now you can see magic, right? Like that's how I often see detect magic used as. And I think the at-will detect magic is a little bit easier to get in environments of exploration than people necessarily always think, especially whenever you go to a big social event, whenever you go to a town square or, a big moment, you normally care about a small window of time in that event. Whenever you're meeting specific people, whenever you're observing specific items, whenever you're passing by specific places, you want that window to have detect magic. And setting that up isn't that tall of an order, and most characters can do that. Now, being able to spontaneously do it whenever things change is useful. You could spend first level spell slots to do it, and that's a pretty low cost. In
The
the early
reason
tiers, the
you're
higher cost.
concentrating on these times, like these specific times, is because it's a limited resource. Ritual casting aside, uh,
Yeah,
but just to have it on all the time, that you're occasionally going to spot things you would have missed.
sure. And I think that is definitely going to be most relevant first through third level. The moment you start wanting to have your hour-long concentration effects up, which Warlock still at first level can want with Hex, like that's a big part of a lot of Warlock builds, is what your Hex is doing, is your multi-attacking Warlock with, if you're ever doing like the Hex 2-up and fighting Warlock, this is a very difficult thing to fit onto your sheet on an average adventure. Like if you're going into a dungeon that you're kicking indoors, you're checking out monsters, you're fighting gray oozes, you're seeing rust monsters, Detect Magic up is a lot harder to ask whenever you only have 2 spell slots, and one of them is dedicated to your Hex, and you really want to keep that Hex up as long as you possibly can, because where most of your damage is coming from. It makes this a little bit, it seems like it's very easy and free. I'd like to impress that the costs are, even at first level, fairly high, and you get cheaper ways to do it. A good enough version of this effect down the road that I don't necessarily think you need to commit to it. I'm not saying it's
Yeah, I
unusable,
mean, I don't think you
but
need
the
to.
window's very short.
Eh, I don't know. I guess I'm just imagining, all the times you wouldn't have it up, and you're missing out on things that you I forgot words now.
So
Uh,
I think if you're going into environments with the deliberate purpose of investigation, this is often going to be very ritual castable.
yeah,
Even if you're not, and you're in the upper tiers, or even the mid tiers, a first level spell slot gives you a way to say, I would like to know right now if this is a problem, or if this is important, or if this is X, Y, or Z. And that's a really low cost. It's not free, and this does give it to you for free. It means you can you never have to guess. You always can know what around you is magical if you don't need your concentration. That is a thing this does. And again, in the early tiers of things, when that's most impactful, whenever the cost of first level spell slots is at their highest, whatever, because again, artificers, bards, clerics, druids, paladins, rangers, sorcerers, and wizards all have access to detect magic. So every single class in the game, basically that can cast magic, can use detect magic. Warlocks only get it through this invocation or through Book of Ancient Secrets. That's kind of notable. But that means you're competing with all the other concentration effects for that, or all the other ritual casters for that effect. I think at the first through third level, that's going to be pretty good. I think you being able to say, I have it at will, I can see it when I need to, I can check all the things that are magical, no magic shall go beyond my sight. That's where it's going to be pretty cool. Past that, being able to flexibly go from, well, we can just ritual cast this, let's just do that, and then the Warlock's kind of extra overkill. Alongside, I only need to spend one of my 4 first level spell slots to get this. You're going to start to feel like your version isn't that much better. And at that point, there are better invocations you would much rather have. Which means
if the entire party's already got it, then I could see what you're saying.
Or even just like one other member of your party has it,
Yeah.
right? It becomes a lot worse in that instance. And because so many people get access to it, it's harder to sell. It's still good. I still like it a lot. I put this on a lot of character sheets. I take it off a lot of character sheets after a few levels, though, pretty regularly.
Well, let's talk a little bit about detect magic. When I think detect magic, I'm seeing a pile of garbage. I want to sift through it really quick, efficiently. Oh,
Sure.
There's a glowing ring in there. I'll take that. I will leave the chicken bones behind.
Sure. Because you weren't going to take the ring anyway.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
It's more like the chicken bones are glowing. You take those over the ring because they're magical chicken bones. So the important elements of detect magic is that it it detects if there is magic, and it tells you what school, if any, of that magic is. So you know if it's necromancy, if it's evocation. Often it's going to be like, we know this door is magical. We thought it was conjuration because something magical is going to come out of it. Turns out it's necromancy. Now it's a lot spookier, and we'd like to not be dealing with the necromancy, whereas we thought it wasn't harmful before, right? If you see something and you're like, that monster's clearly magical, detect magic, what kind of magic is it enchanted with? And you're like, oh, actually, it's all illusion magic surrounding it. That should set off some, oh, this may be something that isn't as threatening as we thought it was. There will be some world exploration connotation and importance to understanding schools of magic with this and stuff. I don't think it changes the use of Devil's Sight all that much, but it is nice to have. It's a comfortable thing to put on a warlock. Again, I also think it really enhances the feeling that a lot of warlock players want, which is delving into ancient secrets, uncovering the nature of reality, the nature of magic, and the fundamental rules and bargains and interplanar stuff that warlocks are all about. This definitely fits that vibe very well. Having it at will feels really great. I really wish it knocked the concentration off. If this also said it didn't take your concentration, I'd be like, yep, this stays on my sheet forever. I love it. It's sweet. It lets detect magic continuously just feel like it's on. It actually feels like a sight versus something to put mental load into. As it is, it's still pretty great. It's just, again, only in the really early tiers, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about this as a petty thief just walking through a crowd,
Sure.
scanning. Like, all right, that guy's got some magic on him. I'm gonna lure him over here. But
And again, you could have just done that with a ritual spell. You could have just been like,
yeah.
I'll just take 10 minutes over here, don't mind me, I'm just reading my book, and then, okay, let's see who's got good coin on them. Let's go check around and see who's got weird rings and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like we're arguing because you are saying it is good, and that's where I'm at. It's good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think
What
you're like, I want some of my character. I think the fantasy of it really is sold to you of like, oh yes, detect magic is sweet. I can just do it whenever I want. No strings attached. There are strings attached, but I want to try and impose or try and express.
I mean, yeah, I just think I'm thinking of it mainly out of combat.
When
Where
ritual casting is at its best.
yeah, but not continuously. You got to keep taking 10-minute breaks for that.
Then you get into that weird little spot of how often is it relevant and how much do you really need it. A lot of times you know if something is magical by just being like, obviously the glowing red rock is dangerous, don't touch it.
Well,
Oh, it's evocation magic? I would have never guessed. Like,
right.
So ritual casting.
Those are the times when you're going to be using detect magic or even ritual casting it. I want it for the times I'd never even suspect. Oh, that patch of sand is magical for some reason.
Sure.
It's like a metal detector on the beach.
That is a real use case for it, is that it is always up when you don't need to concentrate on your long duration attacks, which warlocks really need to do because of how pack magic works and all that hubbaloo. But like hullabaloo. We got there like the 5th time. I think this is a 3 out of 5. I think this is a reasonable invocation. I think you probably don't want it in the long term. I think the concentration ends up being more and more of attacks as the game progresses, and I think that the utility of it will go down as magic becomes more of a mainstay and a feature of the game that's kind of expected versus we're level 1 adventurers going into the basement of the mundane tavern with the giant rats, and why is this barrel magical? Which is the use case that you're presenting, which is a real use case in the early tier. It's just whenever you're going into the fire giant's palace down the road, like, you can expect there's more magical stuff happening. You're not necessarily worried about why is this tankard magical.
All right, you've talked me down from a 4. I'm more excited about it than a 3, but maybe not 4 excited. There's like with anything, if you choose this, you're choosing not to have something else, and that's an important consideration. All right, well, let us know in the comments what you think, fellow viewers, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sam, as always. That was Eldritch Sight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.